on this just before I forget. I would encourage you all in your classes, because again, one of the themes is giving you all tools to help you be successful, is to ask your faculty what kind of turnaround to expect when you submit assignments and exams. Okay? I tell my students my goal is 2 weeks on grading things. Okay? That said, I actually am notorious for getting things graded, putting it in Blackboard, and then what happens? I forget to make grades available to students. Because there's a little release button that says show this grade to students, and so I'm thinking, how come I haven't gotten any push? Like, why haven't I heard anyone complaining about their grade or saying, oh, I'm so happy, you know, with that 99 I earned, not that you gave me, but I earned. And 3 or 4 weeks will have gone by, and then someone will say, I'll get an email, and it'll be, or someone will say in class, when are you going to release those grades? Have you graded our papers? And I'm like, yeah, I graded them 2 weeks ago. I forgot to release grades. Okay, so if you get an approximate sense of how quickly faculty are going to turn around things, and it will not be, you know, 3 or 4 days. It's going to be a week or 2. Okay. And then if they haven't done so, politely ask them, because I said, I am notorious for that. I will get the things graded typically within 10 days, 2 weeks, and then forget to release the grades. And again, part of what I'm trying to do is encourage and empower you all to advocate for yourselves and to simply ask questions in polite and respectful ways so that you can get the information that helps you be successful. So that said, speaking of that,
already?
Yes, we're running ahead of schedule, which is rather remarkable.
Hey, you know, that works for me. Well, actually, I'm supposed to be here about right now.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yes. So this is Reed Claiborne, Executive Director?
Director.
Okay, Director.
Executive Director, I like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Director of the Disability Resource Center, and I'm actually going to sneak out and grab something from my office, because I know that you're so confident you can handle this group on your own. But I take a certain amount of pride, and I was chatting with someone about this, in that I actually played a role in hiring Reed, so I take some credit for his success and his ability to help you out. And how many years have you been here? Because it seems like 5. I was going to say, I thought it was 5. I thought it was 5.
Yeah, I can't, I was thinking about that the other day. It's like anytime I go to my hometown, it's changed so much. And so is you in Little Rock now.
Yeah. So, and he's going to talk about the Disability Resource Center. I don't know if he's going to say this, so I will say it, and he can expand on it. One of the things that I love about the Disability Resource Center is, number one, they're just amazing and cool people. But number 2 is that they do backbends to protect your confidentiality. And I just had this conversation with a student that you're going to be helping us out with in a wheelchair today. And so one of the things that Reed in his office does is they're focused on accommodations. They're not focused on the actual diagnosis or the disability. So as an instructor, he's going to say, well, this student needs A, B, and C. How do we make that happen? And the cause or the rationale for that is completely irrelevant. It's about helping you all as students get what you need. Because there are some faculty, both in social work and elsewhere, that might unfortunately stigmatize the student or say, you know what, that little ADHD thing, that's kind of a meaningless diagnosis. They don't really need extra time on their exam. And so his office is targeted at helping faculty and students be successful and helping the student be successful, with less emphasis on why they need that information or why they need that accommodation. And that's one of the things I love, is that they work so hard at protecting your confidentiality. So you ask for the accommodation, that's all that matters to me as a faculty. I'm not particularly interested unless you want to tell me and the reason why. I'm just interested in helping you get what you need.
Very good, perfect. Well, thank you very much. So, if I recognize some people, and I recognize someone here, but it's not related to work. She talked about the confidentiality. If there is anybody in here that's registered with the office, and I ignore you, that's kind of intentional because it is that, but I go to church with this one person, so that's okay, that's not protected. But anyway, before I usually start talking about these things, about the Disability Resource Center, I like to talk about my favorite subject, me. Everybody likes to talk about me. But I'm going to ask this question. I ask this of everybody. Who here, just looking at me, can see my disability? Very good, yes. Okay, without my glasses, I can't really see. Everybody is blurry. Still a good-looking group, except for that man back there. It's Mike Kirk from Counseling Services. But that's not the disability that I'm talking about. I'm dyslexic. So school is not my favorite thing, and the irony is that I work at school. And I'll kind of tell you my story a little bit. This is kind of twofold. Just talking about my story, you're in social work, right? You're going to be doing some counseling and kind of broadening some horizons. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me, and I'm going to talk about our office. So if this is something that resonates with you and you experience some barriers, come talk to us. If this resonates with you and this could maybe help direct, guide some study, that's okay too. So my story is, it's actually pretty simple. There's an old joke. I grew up playing ice hockey. I'm from Knoxville, but still, I grew up playing ice hockey, and there was a joke. And it was like, what's the hardest thing on a hockey player? The third grade. You know? A little bit of laughs, it's okay. But it's actually, when I first heard that, I was just like going, damn. You know, and that was true. And that, it's like, that kind of hurt because that was about right. So I was diagnosed early on. I had a lot of resources, you know, at my disposal. I went to pretty much a special ed school from about 3rd until 7th grade, and I kind of felt like I was missing some other things. And so I told mom and dad, I was like, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. So I go mainstream, go to public school, and public school, 7th grade, I get out, and I'm like, I'm going to get all A's, I'm going to make mom and dad proud, I'm going to look good, and Valerie Carr's going to go out with me, and you know, and I'm just going to be awesome. Well, all those dreams got eliminated within about 4 days. You know, it's like I started off with really good intentions, and that was kind of a recurring story. 8th grade, but almost, and I'd already been held back. I was almost held back again. Got into high school. High school, first year, freshman year, took some pretty easy classes. It was all right, but you know, I still had to kick and claw my way to get through. I saw somebody reading a book. Did they assign you to read this book? And it was Valerie again. She goes, no, I just like to read. And I was like, God, I do not get this. So I got through the freshman year, sophomore year, started off bad. I go to school up in New England. We had some resources. And up there, I was able to play some hockey and develop some really good study skills. But I didn't really like it up there, and I came back to Knoxville, where I'm from, and I had impeccable study skills. Went in to take a history exam. I was ready. And when I went to take that exam, bing, bang, boom, I aced it. I mean, I was like dropping the mic. I was like, yep, I'm out of here. Next day, I got in to class. The teacher had graded the exam, and I got a C. The year before, if I would have got a C, that would have been just fine with me. But this one, it hurt. You know, so I go up to the history teacher, who's also the football coach. It's kind of how it is in high school, right? So I said to the history teacher, I said, you messed up. Pointed my finger at the football coach, you messed up. And to his credit, he goes, maybe I did. And so we got together, looked at the multiple choice exam, and every one of those questions I misread. That I missed, the questions I got wrong, I misread them. I knew the answers, but I misread the question. I didn't slow down. I didn't understand what dyslexia was. I didn't care. I was like, that hurt, you know. Next test, I tried a little bit, not quite as hard. I still got a C. So if I'm going to try really, really hard to get a C, or not try that hard and still get a C, what am I going to do? Yeah, I mean, it's human nature, right? So, and I'm kind of belaboring this point, but it's like you run into these little bitty struggles. I ended up going to the University of Tennessee. Anybody here from Tennessee? Not you, Mike? No one? Dang. Looking for some allies. But I went to UT, and I did have some pretty good study skills. Freshman year, I'd get in there, and I'd just start failing exams left and right. And I'm hearing other students, just hearing them say, oh, that psychology class is easy. Right? It wasn't for me. Somebody take this speech class over here. All you got to do is read. I'm like, damn, really? That's all you got to do? You know, that was like the hardest thing for me. And I ended up going to the Disability Resource Center at the University of Tennessee, and there I was afforded books in alternative format. I was afforded extended time on exams, and a few other things. I didn't take advantage of all that stuff because I didn't know what it meant. However, because I did have extended time on exams, I was able to take my time on tests. Like that history test before, if I had extended time, and if I had the maturity, which I have very little of, I might have got that A. And that might have kind of set my course for high school to be a little bit better. And it might have been a better trajectory through college. I had the books in alternative format. Again, I just thought that was going to be more work. I didn't know what the whole thing was for me, so I put that stuff all aside. It took 6 years to get through undergrad. Not necessarily too unusual, but my situation was I couldn't take classes at the regular amount. I had to like really reduce my load. Fast forward a few years later, I get out of college. I go into customer service and sales and things like that. Didn't really like that too much, and so I go back and take the GMAT. That's the business one, right? And I studied for that. It was just like the history test. Usually I choke up about here. If I do, don't freak out. It's okay. But I studied really, really hard for that. And I mean, and it's like I walked into the test like a WWF wrestler, and I was like waving to the crowd. I was like, "Yeah, I got this." Within about 10 minutes of that test going, I could see that clock, and I was already behind. I mean, within 20 minutes, I was already doing the Christmas tree. I was not going to finish that thing in time. And I ended up scoring a grade that would have been indicative of someone who hung out at the bar all night long, drove straight from the bar, straight to the testing, and that was about the same score I got. That one hurt. And about that time, I was like middle 30s. I'm a little older now. So it's, I think 33 years old, tears in my eyes, I call my mom. It's where I joke. So she introduced me to a counselor that really kind of helped me understand what dyslexia was, what learning disabilities were, the self-esteem issues, the depression issues that go along with that. It helped me understand that. And when I met this counselor, I started realizing, he started asking me these questions, and it's like I started realizing what dyslexia meant, and that it was real, and that it really had some side effects that were not just in the classroom, that were also getting out and about into the real world. And so it played with me in a lot of different ways. It turns out this guy had like 2 master's degrees, if you read to the 3rd grade level. You know, it's like, wow. So he started asking these questions, and he started asking questions like, why do you want to get an MBA? Because it looks good? Because it makes money? You know, it's like those are all, that's kind of real, but that's all I can answer. You know, then I started finding out a little bit more. I decided to go back and get a degree in rehabilitation counseling. And when I was armed with all this information, I knew what my particular situation was about. I knew these technologies that were available out there. I went from about a 2.0 student to getting a 4.0 in graduate school. And let's face it, the only reason I got into graduate school is that program at that time, they needed some warm bodies and somebody willing to tell a decent story that was going to pay for it. And I did, and I took advantage of the assistive technologies that was out there. I was able to use extended time on exams if I needed, because I understood where I could get those resources. Suddenly, I was walking into the classroom and I had a lot of confidence. Suddenly, homework was making sense to me. Well, let's be real. For the first time in my life, I was doing homework. You know, and sometimes I'll ask the question if somebody comes in, I'll kind of say, well, if you read, right? You know, a lot of times we'll open up a book and we'll look at the first paragraph or maybe first paragraph, maybe 2, you get tired, you put it down. I'm going to go get some ice cream, you never get back to the book. Everybody can probably relate to that, but for somebody like me, was an everyday occurrence. So I got my degree, and my goal was to work in the Disability Resource Center, just like we have here. So I've achieved that goal. So yay me. But anyway, so that's what brought me here to Little Rock, and I wanted to let you know a little bit about that because that's where I'm coming from. And the Disability Resource Center, what Dr. Crisp just said earlier, is we do not focus on disabilities. And the question could be, what is a disability? We have people ask all the time, like you said earlier, ADHD. We'll have somebody say, is ADHD a disability? We've had people ask, is anxiety a disability? I have this illness and I have to take these medications and these medications slow me up. You know, so if you have any questions about those things, we're not going to focus on that. We're not going to try to cure your reading disability or cure your anxiety, but we may try to help mitigate some of those things by removing those barriers. And sometimes, like anxiety, disagree with me if you want to, Mike, but maybe sometimes anxiety may be rooted in something different. Everybody has a little bit of test anxiety, and I believe in it, but maybe it's something else. So if you have questions about any barriers, any problems, anything that's getting in the way, we want to talk about it, you know, and don't worry about the documentation. If we need documentation, we will let you know at the time. Don't let that be a barrier. You know, these stairs are barriers. We have barriers all over the place, but a lot of times, just like me, there's the invisible barrier. And so if you have questions about those, come talk to us. We don't focus on the disability, we focus on the barrier. And whenever we notify a faculty person, instructor, about accommodations, all it says is, this person came into this office, we've identified some barriers, and here are the accommodations. That's it. We may ask, when you're in the office, if we have permission to speak with the professor or anybody else, and if they say yes, here's the deal. We still don't disclose any information. I've never had this happen, but if a professor, just as a matter of practice, I really don't think this ever happened, we've never had somebody say, well, what's Reed's deal? What's his diagnosis? You know, even if they ask that question, we're not going to share that information. It could be a mosquito bite. That's not our place to share that information. You know, we may say, what do you mean, what is his deal? He has to have extra time on exams. Oh, do you know how to set that up? No, I don't. And then we change the subject. Or if they come back and say, well, Reed's dyslexic, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'm not going to talk about Reed anymore. We're going to talk about dyslexia globally. And if we put any accommodations in place for somebody, the way we want to look at it is for it to be universal, so that we're not just doing an accommodation for one person, but maybe that one accommodation may eliminate some barriers for everybody else. Does that make sense? Like, I just met with somebody with a low vision a little bit earlier today, and if they have if the professor has some of their paperwork, their handouts in a digital format, somebody with dyslexia, somebody maybe with some focus issues that have problems reading, low vision, that's going to open up the door to a lot of people without anybody having to come into our office. So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I probably went on a little bit longer about me, but I want you to know a little bit about who I was. So if you do have any of those questions, believe me, I get it. I really do. I should have had a number up here. Or do you have numbers?
We have got the website to your office.
Okay.
In our student handbook that they are required to read.
All right, all right. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Anyone? Not even you, Mike, from the gallery there? All right. Yes.
Thank you for taking your expertise and bringing it to a population that is not well known for needing to be empowered, especially something that's not a physical disability. A lot of people have ones that are not so visible. So I really appreciate you recognizing that population.
Well, thank you. And with that being said, by and large, the largest population of people that we work with have hidden disabilities, so we can't see them. So, can anybody see the dent in my forehead? Maybe the light. I have a dent in my forehead, and somebody, I was asking that question, who here can see my disability? It's like, is that your dent in the forehead? Thanks for bringing that back up again. It's a sports injury. I'm okay. So it just looks a little weird, but I'm fine. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And thank you so much for letting me come.
Well, thank you, Reed. And I want to add one thing to what Reed said. A few years ago, we had a student who was the survivor of a fairly violent experience in her personal life. And you might not think about that as being something that the DRC would be appropriate to assist with. But the student had what was appropriately so some anxiety. She did not feel comfortable moving around campus alone with her classes and everything. So I contacted the director of the DRC, who was a woman named Sharon Downs at the time, and explained to her the situation. And Sharon said, well, she's not comfortable coming over to campus. Let me just come to your office and I'll meet with the student in your office in the privacy there and everything. And so I made the introduction, left my office. The student and Sharon spent a good hour together. No one else of the faculty knew why the student had the accommodations and everything, but the student was able to meet with Sharon and get her needs met. And to be honest, it's been 3 years that we've had several students come through. I don't actually remember what those things were, but it's a great example of how something you wouldn't think about being disability, quote unquote, came into play, and how the DRC was able to assist with something that is not under the traditional umbrella of disability. And it's what the student really came to perceive herself as having this temporary disability with some anxiety associated with surviving this really violent relationship. And it worked out very well. So broaden kind of your perspective of how you might be able to use these things. So thanks again.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.